Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, and thank you for joining us for today's discussion on what does the work of the task force on eliminating sub-minimum wages mean for me. My name is Leah. I've been contracted as a facilitator for today's Lunch and Learn session. By way of introduction, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white middle-aged woman in a home office. I've got short brown hair and glasses and a floral picture behind me. Just a reminder that today's discussion is being recorded, and slides and notes will be made available on the Olmstead Implementation Office website later. So we can go to the next slide. Some ground rules to help make our discussion productive for us all today here are to please stay present and give your full attention to this event. Please share about the topic for this event only, including your use of chat. All participants are considered equal. Please raise your hand and wait to be called on by the facilitator to share. And introduce yourself and who you represent, if anyone, or just your perspective when sharing. And for accessibility reasons, if you could please describe yourself and your surroundings. You can share your preferred pronouns if you would like to. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking, and keep an open mind today. Be respectful of the process and other participants. And please do not share personal contact information with anyone. Another reminder for today, we are going to try and take some clarifying questions, time permitting today, but please look to the Olmstead Implementation Office website where questions and answers will be posted. Also, just another housekeeping mention for everybody, we do have CART and ASL services as part of this event. If you'd like to see captioning, click on the closed caption or CC button at the bottom of your screen to show subtitles. If you want to pin the interpreter so you can see that person throughout today's discussion, hover your cursor over their window, find the 3 ellipses or dots at the top right-hand corner of the window and select Pin. That way you will be able to see them throughout discussion today. Please also, because we do have CART and ASL services, please be mindful of speaking slowly so that everybody can fully understand your perspective that you share. All right, it's my privilege then to introduce today's presenters. We have Raquel, and I apologize if I don't pronounce names correctly, but City Wagner, who's the Regional Manager and Legislative and Policy Lead for LifeWorks. We have Kurt Langshan, an employee of Peace Coffee, Andrea Zuber, who's the co-chair of the Task Force on Eliminating Subminimum Wages and the CEO of the ARC, Minnesota. And we also have Ryan Mertz, Employment Planning and Resource Coordinator of DHS Disability Services Division. So I'd like to welcome everybody. And again, just remind people joining us, please mute yourselves if you're not sharing. But I believe Andrea is going to walk us through today's agenda.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. It's very nice to see you all. My name again is Andrea Zuber, and I am the CEO for the ARC Minnesota, and I am also co-chairing the task force on eliminating subminimum wage with Jillian Nelson. The agenda for today is that we will first welcome everybody. We'll do a quick overview of the task force. And then we're going to talk about what a transition away from using subminimum wage looks like from both a self-advocate perspective and a service provider perspective. And then we'll go into answering some questions and answers about what this change would mean for you. And we have a lot of questions that came up in the first of this 3-part training series that we did in June. And so we're going to go through a lot of those questions because a lot of those were really relevant to the topic today around what does this mean for you. So I will back up and briefly give a visual description of myself, as I forgot to do that. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman with long blonde hair and blue eyes. I have a floral print shirt on, and I'm sitting at home in my living room with 2 lamps and an oil painting of Tuscany behind me. So next slide. The goals for today, what we hope that you learn after you are done listening to this session, is that you learn about the work of the task force on eliminating subminimum wages, that you understand what a transition to not using subminimum wage means and how that will look for you in your life, not specifically for you, but generally, and know how to stay engaged as we continue to work on this process over the next few months. The next slide. So I just wanted to recap a little bit about all of this work in case any of you missed the first of these 3 sessions that we had in June. So subminimum wage is the lowest amount of money, or minimum wage is the lowest amount of money that somebody can be paid in our state for doing a job. And the word sub means below the minimum. So subminimum wage is when people are being paid lower than the minimum wage. The minimum wage was created in 1938 because lawmakers did not believe that people with disabilities could earn competitive wages. And the original thinking was that it was one of the only ways that people with disabilities were going to be able to have a job and gain work skills. Employers have to hold what's called a 14C certificate in order to pay people with disabilities subminimum wage. And 73 disability service provider organizations pay subminimum wages. Between 4,500 and 6,000 people with disabilities are being paid subminimum wages in the state of Minnesota. And Minnesota has the highest rate per capita of people being paid wages less than the minimum of any state in our country. So in 2021, self-advocates in Minnesota proposed legislation to create a task force on eliminating subminimum wages. And they brought the issue forward because of several reasons. One of them is the effectiveness of paying subminimum wages, and that there is no evidence that subminimum wages help people achieve competitive employment. And then the second one was that there are civil rights concerns with this. People with disabilities are the only group of people who can be paid subminimum wages, and we're allowed to pay subminimum wages solely on the basis of them having a disability. So a 2020 report by the US Commission on Civil Rights recommended the phase out of subminimum wages, and their concerns included that it contributes to the segregation of people with disabilities, again, because employers are only allowed to pay people subminimum wage if they have a disability, and people were thought not capable of competitive employment originally, and now we know that they are able to become competitively employed. Nationally, there has been a large decline in people using subminimum wage as we have become more and more creative about supporting people with significant disabilities to work at minimum wages. 16 states across the country have ended or are ending subminimum wage, and federal policy for disability services emphasizes inclusion and the importance of competitive employment. The Build Back Better Act, which is a bill currently moving through Congress, has bipartisan authors, and it would eliminate subminimum wage by the end of 2025 at the federal level. So the self-advocates in Minnesota believe that eliminating subminimum wage is the right thing to do to ensure their civil rights and to increase their ability to earn livable wages. So in 2021, the Minnesota legislature thoughtfully created the task force to make a plan in Minnesota in case subminimum wages are no longer allowed. So the legislation says that people with disabilities should be supported if they choose to find competitive integrated employment, which means that they should be supported to have a job that pays minimum wage or higher. The legislature wants Minnesota to have a good plan that will support people to meet their goals and protect their rights. And the legislature wants everyone to have a plan so that they are not left behind with nothing to do, no work, and no supports. The plan is very important, again, in case the state or the federal government no longer allows subminimum wages. So next slide. What is the work of the task force exactly? So a task force is a group of people that work together to solve a problem. They don't work together forever. They have a specific problem to solve, and then they're done meeting. And the task force on eliminating subminimum wages in Minnesota includes people with disabilities, disability service providers, advocacy and protection agencies, and state representatives. And we've been meeting since February to create a plan that the legislature requested, which will recommend how Minnesota would handle the elimination of subminimum wage. So again, because a lot of people in Minnesota earn subminimum wage, we need to have a good plan to make sure that no one is left behind if we can no longer pay subminimum wages in Minnesota. So that means that people need to know, what will they do when subminimum wage ends? Where will they work, live, and play? How will they get places? How will they be supported? What do their case managers need to know? What do their family and other trusted supporters need to know? And what services and funding do we need to make sure that everyone's goals are met? So the plan will be very comprehensive and address what is good about ending subminimum wages, and also how to address the challenges that some people may have. And before the task force writes the plan and makes their recommendations, they're meeting with people to hear all about what the benefits and challenges are. And they're listening to people, they're making sure that they understand people, and also making sure that people understand what it will mean to them, which is part of us being here today. The task force will also research and gather information from across the country on what other states have done and what has worked, and what's worked the very best and what's produced the most success for people with disabilities when their states have ended subminimum wage. In the plan, the task force will suggest support and funding and services needed so that people can meet their goals and have the support they need if subminimum wage ends. They'll recommend ways to help people with disabilities have a job that pays minimum wage or higher, and they will recommend a way to track our progress so that we know how are people doing if subminimum wage ends. The task force will submit this plan to the Minnesota legislature by February 2023. So we know that especially in Minnesota, subminimum wages are used as part of the services that people value. And during the remainder of today's presentation, you're going to hear from a disability service provider who successfully stopped paying subminimum wages to people with disabilities, and from a self-advocate who went through that transition with that provider and what it meant to them and what it looked like for them. And we're going to also answer a lot of the questions that people have on what the elimination of subminimum wage will mean for them. So with that, I will turn it over to our next presenter.
All right, so that's me. My name is Raquel Seide-Wagner. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with short red hair, and you can see sort of the expanse of my living room behind me currently. I am the regional manager for the Southern Metro for LifeWorks Services, as well as the legislative and policy lead. And I'm super excited to share the story of our exit from our 14C certificate with you today, as well as some of what we learned, what was difficult, some of the data points. So thank you for listening, and we can go to the next slide. So who is LifeWorks? I just wanted to start off to give you some context. So LifeWorks is a disability services provider that's been in business since 1965. Originally, LifeWorks was a provider of early childhood services, as we were founded by a group of families who were pretty frustrated with the lack of options for their children. This was prior to the passing of IDEA. And after special education was implemented, our services changed. Today, LifeWorks provides fiscal services and resource navigation throughout the state, and day and employment services in the 7-county metro, along with Mankato and the surrounding region. We operate 2 facilities that provide day support services, one in Brooklyn Park and the other in Apple Valley. These programs are largely for folks with more medical and physical support needs. We also provide day support services in the community, and all of our employment supports are community-based. In total, we serve more than 2,900 Minnesotans with disabilities and their families. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the timeline for our exit. So the decision was made to exit our 14C, or our sub-minimum wage certificate, in the spring of 2016. So from here, you'll see about how long it took us to actually exit. So in summer of 2016, the leadership and team meetings began to plan for communication and exit strategy. In October or fall of 2016, communication with businesses and individuals served began. And then in December of 2016, we started initial communications with we ended initial communications with individuals, teams, and businesses. And by March 1st, 2017, all individuals supported by LifeWorks in their employment were at or above minimum wage. So we exited our 14C certificate as of March 1st, 2017. So next slide. So why did we decide to exit our 14C? Obviously, there was no legal change or any sort of rule change that compelled us to do so. So it was an internal decision. It had been a long time coming, but it was delayed due to a lot of the fears that we're seeing in the argument today. Would people lose employment they loved? How would the community respond? Can we find work for everyone? As a service provider, it is always our #1 goal to make sure that folks are receiving the services that they want and need. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing something that would cause harm. Ultimately, the decision was made for 2 reasons. Holding the certificate no longer served our mission, we believed. We felt we could not continue to push ourselves and the industry forward if we held on to this certificate that we think is outdated and violated the people we serve's civil rights. The maintenance of a 14C certificate is also cumbersome and expensive. It was taking resources that we could use instead to find competitive employment and putting them into the constant and difficult documentation necessary to keep the certificate. So for those 2 reasons, we made the determination that we wanted to exit this certificate. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit through the numbers, the data behind our exits, that you can hear sort of where we started and where we ended up in March of 2017. So next slide. The number of people that were impacted by this transition was about 300. So just as a heads up, I'm going to talk through some numbers, and then on the next slide, I'll have the explanations. The number of people paid at sub-minimum wage or under were about 58 at the time of our transition. And the number of businesses utilizing our 14C certificate to pay sub-minimum wages at the time of our transition was 8. Next slide. So here's some explanation for these numbers. Impacted. The reason that that number is so different from the number of people that were paid sub-minimum wage is because a lot of these employers had employees that were at or above minimum wage. So despite the fact that they were paying some employees sub-minimum wage, they weren't paying all employees sub-minimum wage. So there were folks that would potentially be impacted. Should we end that certificate and that employer chooses to end their relationship with us, then these other folks could be impacted as well. And also, LifeWorks itself was employing people at our facilities. They were being paid at or above minimum wage, but the reason that we could do that was sort of through the, and I don't want to say loopholes because that sounds bad, but the rules that we had because of our 14C. So when we exited that, we had to end that employment. And so that was sort of happening at multiple of our facilities. So then looking at the folks who were paid, so these 58 people were the ones currently working under minimum wage. All of these employees were working in the community. At the time, LifeWorks no longer had any sheltered workshops on site. And then businesses wise, we had many more than just the 8 businesses utilizing our certificate over the years, but we had been phasing away from them for the last several years prior to the transition. So we were down to just the 8 by the time we actually made this transition. Next slide, please. So here's some of our outcomes numbers. So again, I'll have numbers on this slide, explanations on the next one. So the number of businesses who chose to keep employees and increase their wages was 7 of the 8 businesses. Number of individuals who kept their current jobs with an increase in wage and or job duties was 29 of 58. The number of individuals who lost their current employment but used LifeWorks to obtain new employment were 6. The number of individuals who chose to move into other services with LifeWorks was 19. And the number of individuals who left LifeWorks at the time to seek other sub-minimum wage work was 4. Next slide. So here's the whys and hows. So business-wise, the business that chose to lay off all of our supported employees was a fully segregated site at the business that we had been hoping to reduce or potentially eliminate for some time. It was sort of off on its own. It was something that we had wanted to exit for a while, but we obviously, like, ending folks' employment is not something that we want to do actively. So unfortunately, this sort of pulled the plug on that. But and the remaining 7 businesses chose to keep all or some of their employees and raise their wages. Individuals moving into other services, many individuals were of retirement age and chose to retire into a community-based or center-based program to access more recreation and leisure programming, socialization, etc. And several individuals chose to move into a program we called at the time small group career development, so this was all prior to employment services changing quite a bit in 2018. So this was essentially employment exploration. So the idea here was these were folks who had potentially never actually done the work of figuring out like what it is that they wanted to do. And so they wanted to utilize a service like this in order to spend some real quality time figuring out what the future of their career was. So this was a pretty exciting development that folks really got to work through what it was that they wanted. And then in terms of the individuals who left LifeWorks for other 14C work, those 4 who left when the transition happened almost exclusively moved into this work at a nearby competitor. I put that in quotes. In the field, we're not really in competition with each other, who has since eliminated that work entirely. So unfortunately, they shifted into another provider that has ended subminimum wage as well. And the reasoning behind why these folks left was largely their teams or themselves wanted them to be more heavily supported on the job, or they wanted them to be surrounded by who they viewed as their peer group. So it's usually one or the other. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to walk through a little bit of how did the process work? How did we go from this decision to ending in just about a year? So next slide. First, we have to identify goals. Our first and most important goal was to maintain the maximum number of persons served and employers through the transition. So ultimately, what we hoped was that we could go to each business and ask them to pay folks at or above minimum wage and just move forward, right? So that was the ultimate goal. We knew that wasn't going to be reality, but that's what we were hoping for. Develop a plan for each individual and employer impacted. So this needed to be a very individual process. We wanted to make sure that we were not leaving anyone behind in it. And then manage the change in communication throughout the process. So of course, this is sort of an upheaval for a lot of folks. This feels very big. So we wanted to make sure that we were sort of constantly reevaluating the work, how we were communicating. So for the individuals served, meetings were scheduled with each individual impacted and their team. The staff or manager who had the strongest rapport with that person and their team was to attend the meeting. We wanted to make sure that there was a person in that space who was trusted and known. So the family, the team, the person felt the most supported through the process. And then the staff who attended the meeting were given a full list of resources, tools, and options for the person and their team to review in regards to what could be next for them. So then in terms of our businesses, letters were sent to businesses to alert them to the change initially. And then individual meetings with each business were scheduled. These were attended by the program manager or someone in executive leadership at LifeWorks, and this was where the big ask came. So this meeting started with an ask that all current staff are kept on and their wages simply increased. So next slide. What did we need for the process? We had to build out a lot of things in order to make this process be smooth. So we needed things like scripts and talking points for staff. Obviously, we wanted staff, whoever was leading the meeting, 1, to have what folks needed, but 2, to feel supported in that process. This could be a difficult change to communicate. Priority ranking tools to be used with individuals in their meetings. So this was some person-centered tools to make sure that folks could really talk through what they wanted next. Spreadsheets of businesses and business decisions and individual priorities for tracking. Letters for businesses, different depending on the employment type. Letters for individuals, different depending on the job. Visual flowchart of service options for individuals. So again, making sure not only that the resources are available, but that they're accessible. and access to consulting firms to offer insight around communication, data, some of the like bigger things that we had to be concerned about. So next slide. Where do we have issues in the process? I don't like want anyone to think that we came into this situation and it was all roses and everything went really great and everything has been, 100% ever since. This is a difficult change to make. So first of all, I would say that our group sites were harder to navigate. We had a lot of employers where many people that we supported were employed. And so often if we went into a business with having sent their letter, if they only had one employee, we'd already know their decision, right? Like they'd already decided. So then it's easy for us to go into those meetings because we've already got that knowledge. Whereas with these larger group sites, we had to have multiple meetings. It was just a more extensive process. So then when we met with those individuals, we didn't necessarily know what the business was going to do just yet. Funding concerns. So things like MAEPD, if folks are on MAEPD and they lose income for too long, they could potentially start seeing some big spend downs, and just like other benefits navigation like that, making sure that we were like aware of what could possibly happen and supporting people through that. WIOA requirements. This was like right around WIOA's release. And so we were needing to ensure that all of our meetings met the requirements of it. And that took a lot of planning and communication. Concerns around job seeking in the Mankato area. I am a regional manager in the Metro. So that is a very different beast than working in greater Minnesota and even like in Mankato versus the area around Mankato. So, everyone wanting to make sure that those folks were also pretty supported. Next slide. Communication was a big one. Teams, employers, et cetera, had frustrations, concerns, grievances with the premise. Some meetings were quick and easy, others were extensive. Concerns over revenue loss. Something we are seeing in a lot of opposition to this work now is just these contracts bring in a certain amount of money. And so nonprofits looking at like, ooh, how do we stay afloat if this is gone? Internal disagreements over the process and decision. Not everybody in-house was thrilled with this idea. So making sure, and then, along the way, we had disagreements about the process. So like working through some of that. And then the heavy burden on staff and managers to communicate and mitigate any concerns or backlash. It's tough to be the person to deliver news that somebody might not appreciate. So I just wanted to be really transparent about some of the things we ran into. Next slide. So how did we respond to some of those issues? From basically like the decision to exit the certificate through March of 2017, we had ongoing meetings with a team that included people from all parts of the company to respond to concerns. We met regularly. I was a part of that team, so I was in a lot of these meetings to talk through like, oh, we're hearing this is what we need. So we were doing things like adjusting communication as we received feedback. This letter isn't being received very well. What can we change in it? Establishing deadlines for decisions with teams and businesses. So particularly with businesses, sort of putting that, like, it's got to be, you have to tell us by this date so that we're able to communicate to the individuals that work for you so we can figure out next steps. Otherwise, there's a lot of feet dragging. Building out more tools, better talking points, etc. for staff. Again, as we heard feedback, as we, had questions come up, then we were able to better our tools. Connecting with lots of WIOA experts, that was a big part of that process. Connecting with other consultants, and then creating revenue projections to determine level of risk. So knowing what potentially could happen to help mitigate some of the concerns. Next slide. So how is LifeWorks doing post our 14C transition? Next slide. So we currently support around 650 people annually in finding or maintaining their employment. And like 160 some of those are in the Mankato area every year. Our capacity for employment supports and our revenue increased in 2017, 18, and 19 gradually each year. Obviously 2020, 2021 were different years. But those 3 years immediately after the exit, we grew our employment services in a big way. We have expanded our business partnerships, allowing for more robust work together to find unique and meaningful job opportunities. And more of the individuals we support than ever before are directly hired at their jobs, creating a more inclusive environment where natural supports can come into play. So that we believe is really important, especially now as we're looking at this staffing shortage and crisis, is how do we get folks in environments where they can be supported more naturally and not have to rely so heavily on paid staff. Next slide, please. So what do we feel were the benefits to the exit? We believe it allows us to live into our stated values. Holding this certificate that deems people less than doesn't match with our mission. It aligns us with the self-advocates who LifeWorks believes should be leading the way, who asked us to sort of be a part of the process for this legislation to begin with. It forces more individualized and creative employment searches. So I'll say that in my region, one of my favorite jobs is there's an alpaca farm outside of Hastings, and we have multiple people who work there who help with the animals, the materials, like just a variety of really unique jobs that I think this sort of creativity forces us to find cool stuff like that. Encourages more independence, which is the focus of all of our services. Gives employers and individuals more freedom to do and try different tasks in their job. So under a 14C certificate, it's pretty specific what work people can do. So that can limit growth and opportunities. And LifeWorks no longer has to worry about the eventual law change impacting us. So as Andrea talked through at the beginning of this, we see it in federal legislation, we see it coming through the courts in other states. It is changing all over the country. And so it's nice to know that this is something we've already done and we don't have to do that work again in the future. Next slide. So in summary, I will say that LifeWorks stands firmly behind our decision to exit our special wage certificate. It has benefited the organization, the people we support, and our community in ways we view as very profound. We also uniquely recognize the amount of work it will take to do this on a broader scale. So we are excited to support other providers in obtaining the supports, resources, and funding necessary to make this change with the fewest negative repercussions to the communities that we all serve. So that's why we sought a seat on this task force, and why we want to keep supporting other providers so that there is not a lot of harm, unintended harm caused. And next slide. So that's it. Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we're going to let Kirk speak, I think, first, and then answer questions after that.
Yes, thank you, Raquel. And Kirk, we'll go over to you for your presentation. We'll continue to take questions via chat.
Hi. So it's okay for me to speak now, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any slides for my presentation. But yeah, I'm Kirk Langston. I'm white, middle-aged male. I'd say balding on top, but I do have pretty good, what I'd say brownish beard. And I wear glasses. And I'm here to speak about my employment. And just suddenly the pictures of everybody showed up. So let me just start by stating that I am so happy that it looks like you've thought so much out about the transition. I've been so worried about the backlash. And, when I was with LifeWorks and they were just doing piece rated, it was, it was nice, but there are some downsides, and those downsides are like a lot of people, like I sort of got distracted because a lot of people weren't exactly doing the best job, and it just, it's like, how is this going to look on me because I'm working with them? And so I think that moving out of some minimum wage is a really good step because it also helps people get jobs that are better meant for them. But on to my story. Yeah, when LifeWorks first moved out of sub-minimum wage, I was a bit scared because, you know, I had been depending on that, and it wasn't the smoothest of transitions for me. There were some jobs that didn't work out, and some jobs that just wouldn't have worked out if I had accepted them. It was a bit of a scary time where I started to lose faith in my ability to get a job. And then Peace Coffee called me back, and it's like, well, yeah, this job I know from Peace rated, and I know I can do a good job at it. And I'm not the best worker there. There was somebody that was like way better than me. But, you know, I'm decent. And they want me back. So, you know, I really appreciated it. And I took the offer, and I've been here since. It's a real confidence booster to know that I know that they want me and that I belong. And it's a lot different from then being there with a group, you know, with just a group that goes there for Peace rated, because they're actually employing you for you, as opposed to employing you as part of the group. Also, a lot less worry about people doing things right, or maybe that was just me though.
Eric, we know you to be a perfectionist.
Not only a perfectionist, but also a very detail oriented. I mean, okay, maybe not quite a perfectionist, but yeah, I do worry a lot about all the details. So yeah, basically the transition wasn't exactly the smoothest, but it was a good transition overall. And I can appreciate how the state is trying to move out of some minimum wage. As somebody who's done that myself. But also, you know, as somebody who went through it myself, I said, I'm worried about how smooth it will be for other people.
Kirk, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the group?
I mean, honestly, at first I thought that I had stuff to talk about, how I was worried, you know, about how I was worried about all these different angles about how moving from sub-minimum wage went wrong. And then in the previous presentation before mine, you basically covered all of them. The only one that you might not have covered has to do with, like, if employers are having to up their wages, then they might have to lay off people to keep up with the sub-minimum wage.
So a concern over that being a possible implication.
Yeah, like as I said, I'm very detail oriented. I'm worried about all the ways that it could go wrong. I like the concept. It's just what's going to happen to all the people who were working some minimum wage. What, you know, are we going to transition them into other places slowly? Are we going to, like, are their jobs just going to up to minimum wage?
And I think our next speakers will attempt to answer that, Kirk. So thank you for asking it again and again sharing your perspective today. We really appreciate that. And just a reminder that this is the second of 3 sessions. So we are encouraging people to send their questions via chat. We're keeping a log of that, and those questions will be answered. And I want to again thank you, Kirk and Raquel, for sharing with us today. And then go back to Andrea and Ryan, if you want to introduce yourself, to cover some questions and answers from previous sessions.
Well, great. Hi, everyone. This is Ryan Mers. I'm a white male. I got glasses and brown hair as well. And I am in my home office. And so I just wanted to say that thanks for the segue, Leah, as we get into kind of the question and answer portion. After our last session, we had a lot of, as we were preparing for today's presentation, following the first session, the lunch and learn that we had a lot of really great questions that were really centered around what does this look like, and a lot of people asking how could this impact, you know, my life right now. And we thought taking some time in today's session to directly address some of those questions would be a great way to go about answering them and also address today's topic area. With that being said, Raquel and Kirk had some excellent information, and really glad we got to prioritize some time for them to share their experience in what a exit from sub-minimum wages look like. So we might not get through all of the questions that we planned out today. I think we'll just go through as many as we can get through in the slides. And then we will be posting all of these questions and answers, I believe, on the Olmstead Implementation Office, the OIO website. So I'm sure we'll be able to get that information out. So if there's anything we don't get to in this last part of our lunch and learn session here, we'll be able to get it up online to address. So Andrew, anything to add to that before we hop on in?
I would just add that all of the questions that have been coming in today so far are ones that we've already planned to answer. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Fantastic. Great. Should we go to our first question slide then?
Sounds great.
So the first question, what about people with high support needs and significant disabilities? How will they be supported in community employment?
This is a good question, and I would say it's probably the one that we've seen the most variations of, and you know, what we see coming in chat today and from other places. This is a question that's on a lot of people's mind. And it's also one of the reasons why it's so important that we have a task force that is developing a plan for if some minimum wages are eliminated, so that we can have a plan to make sure that that transition away from subminimum wages increases inclusion for everyone, sort of regardless of their disability status. And so as the task force is carrying out its work and creating this plan for how Minnesota could respond if subminimum wages are eliminated, the recommendations are being developed by the task force that will include investments that are needed to address the support needs of people with significant disabilities or with more significant support needs. And so these recommendations may include things like expanding supported employment services or strategies like customized employment, where job developers can work with employers to tailor jobs to people's specific skill sets, and also have job coaches available to help people be successful at their job. So this question is a lot of the reasons why having a task force is so important, to help kind of build out what could that transition look like across people with all types of disabilities. Anything to add there? I'm gonna take point on answering these, and then I'll just look to Andrea if there's anything you want to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that it's really important to remember is that this is already happening now. People who have very significant cognitive and other disabilities are working and earning minimum wage. We have a lot of tools and methods that have been developed since 1938 when the subminimum wage was invented, and they're working. And I do think that that needs to be a big part of the plan is, like Ryan said, how do we expand that to others? Because we do know that it's working already for people who have high support needs and significant disabilities in Minnesota.
Thank you both. Let's go to our next question then. What about people who don't want to or aren't able to work in competitive employment? How would they be supported if Minnesota ends its use of subminimum wage?
Thanks. For this question, I always want to clarify right off the bat that Minnesota is an employment first state. We have an employment first policy that for our state organizations, which means that we have the expectation that people with disabilities can work in competitive integrated employment, and our public supports help people meet their competitive employment goals, sort of regardless of their disability status. We believe that the right job is out there for people. We just have to be creative and hardworking to find it. So we really work from that place of believing that, that we can support people in competitive employment. Now, there might be people who aren't interested in competitive employment, or maybe that's not the right fit for them. Maybe employment isn't their goal. And so for people who are not interested in competitive employment, finding out what interests them and brings meaning to their days is really a first step in planning supports and thinking about what supports look like for them in the absence of subminimum wages. So people might volunteer, they might build community navigation skills, or they might pursue hobbies or things that bring value to their life and to their days. So part of the work of the task force, again, with this plan that is being developed, is to understand how Minnesota currently supports people in their non-work goals, and then identify ways to improve access to those systems. So how do we keep building those meaningful supports that aren't targeted towards just employment, and make them meaningful and increase access to them?
Yeah, and I would just add, in Minnesota, we have a robust service delivery system and a lot of ways that people are being supported during the day and in their life who don't want to work or aren't able to work. So this wouldn't mean that people wouldn't have supports. It would mean that they potentially would look different, but that they would hopefully lead to new opportunities and connections that we just not enough people have right now in their communities.
Thank you. And Raquel has her hand raised. So maybe
I was wondering if I could offer an answer to this question as well. Just thinking about that first part about what if people don't want to. And so I think a big part of the task force work and just the work on disability services providers is that we need to figure out if that's legitimately the case, or if people have not had the opportunity to explore work that would be legitimately meaningful to them. if the only option you've ever been presented is an option that you don't like, and that's what you think of competitive integrated employment as, I think like that skews folks to seem like, well, no, I don't want that then. So how do we make sure that we really, you know, get into processes like employment exploration, and really like person-centered planning for people that like gets to what is it that you want and how do we let you explore that so you can determine really with actual informed choice if this is what you want or not.
Thank you, Raquel. And let's go on to, I think we have time for one more question. What will my son do every day if he no longer has sub-minimum wage employment?
All right, thanks again. So this, again, another question that's really on what does this mean for me, or what does this mean for my family or loved ones? And the first and preferred option would be competitive employment. So if your son wants his own job in the community, there's supports available that can help him plan, find, and keep a job that matches his skills and interests. So some of those employment services that Raquel was mentioning earlier on through waiver services or vocational rehabilitation services, or even just finding employment through natural supports or other methods. There's also other supports like day support services that can help your son with his goals that are outside of work. So those non-work goals that we talked about, building inclusion in the community and having meaningful days. So to start that process, or to look, if your son receives waiver services, he can talk about his employment goals or other goals with his case manager to make sure that he's got the right supports in place for what he wants to do. The task force realizes the importance of a full, meaningful day, which may mean supporting people in a variety of services and supports, both work and non-work. And the recommendations of the task force will reflect this point. And I think that's really just to say, it doesn't have to be a choice for people, either, sub-minimum wage employment or either employment or day support services or another choice. It can be a mix of both for people. People can have time where they're working in competitive employment and time with other meaningful activities, other types of supports, bring meaning to their day. I see.
I would
Andrea
just.
And Kirk.
Oh yeah, well, we'll let Kirk go, but then briefly though, I would just say, one of the things that the plan will recommend is ways for providers to be successful in this transition. And that was one of the reasons that Raquel was one of the presenters today, was we really wanted to make sure that people understand that providers can stay open, they can continue to provide good services for people. And we know that there are several providers in Minnesota who have stopped paying some minimum wage and continue to be thriving businesses that support people with very significant disabilities in their employment and life goals. And it is true that if sub-minimum wage were eliminated, that would not be a choice, but there still can be a lot of really good choices and really good planning. And we need to plan with each person around what their goals are, what their current reality is, what their options are, and figure out a way forward. But people can continue to lead stable lives and thrive.
Okay, so I raised my hand because I wanted to give my own answer to this. Because I think that this question is slightly closed-minded in a way. It's like, just because sub-minimum wage employment is going away doesn't mean your son's place of employment is going away. One option is to just raise the wage to minimum wage. So what will your son do every day? It's possible that they could be doing the same thing they're doing every day currently.
Thank you, Kirk. Appreciate that and the questions that are coming in. I think we need to go to our penultimate slide.
5 more minutes, okay?
And then just a reminder to mute if you're not a speaker. There we go. So again, thanks to all the people who shared today, the information and your perspective. We really appreciate that. A reminder that the next Lunch and Learn is Wednesday, August 3rd, again at noon. The title of that is What Has the Task Force on Eliminating Subminimum Wages Accomplished? And you can register for that on the Olmstead Implementation Office or OIO website. And we do have ways for you to continue being engaged in the process as well. I believe we have a slide for that. Oh, if we could go back to my mistake. There we go. So you can also sign up for the task force webpage on the Get Engaged tab and think about your employment goals. Ask about employment supports. Again, a reminder, Ryan mentioned it earlier, but there will be a full list of questions and answers posted on the OIO webpage. So I sincerely want to thank Raquel, Ryan, Andrea, Kirk, and everyone for making time today to listen and share. Thank you to those who submitted questions and to those who helped answer them. We will continue to build the question and answer list and post that online. We hope everyone has a fantastic rest of their day, and we look forward to seeing you at the August Lunch and Learn. So from the Olmstead Office of Implementation and everyone else, thank you very much and have a good rest of your day.